Alright, so I've made these pillowy soft steam buns several times before, but despite my best efforts have yet to master the crimping and folding technique. But you know what? That's okay. And part of the reason I wanted to do this video, aside from the craving I had for this, is because I want you to not be afraid to attempt something you think or even know you're not gonna nail perfectly. Embrace the flaws, the imperfections, and have fun. It's just food. And while you're at it, maybe consider embracing that like and subscribe button. I release new episodes every Wednesday. The dough for this is essentially a bread-like dough, so in a small bowl combine yeast, sugar, and warm water. Give it a gentle stir and allow it to activate for a few minutes. Then, in a large bowl, combine bread flour. If you don't have bread flour, all-purpose will work just fine, and cornstarch. Mix together and slowly add the activated water. When you add liquid to flour a little bit at a time, it allows for a greater absorption and a much better texture. Once a shaggy dough begins to form, it's time to add the secret ingredient, fat. Or in this case, bacon fat, because bacon. If you don't have any bacon fat, butter will work too. Slowly add the fat and start to knead the dough until everything has come together. Then transfer to a work surface and knead for roughly 5 to 10 minutes or until smooth. If the dough isn't perfectly smooth, don't panic. Once it proofs, it will smooth out a bit more. Place the dough back into the bowl and wrap it tightly with plastic wrap and allow it to proof for 2 to 3 hours or until it's doubled in size. You can use a bread proofing setting to speed things up, just turn it off after around 10 minutes and let it sit in the oven. For the filling, I'm doing kimchi and pork belly because it's such a great combination. As always, I recommend using homemade kimchi just because it's generally more flavorful. If you'd like to take a crack at making your own, you can check out the card at the top or the link in the description. We're also going to need some pork belly. Now you can skip this and just use ground pork, that's totally fine. But I like using pork belly because it has a ton of flavor, especially in the fat. And I like to mince it by hand because I like a bit of texture in the filling, but you do you. You don't need to be super precise with this either, just slice it into pieces, then cut into strips. And finally, give it a mince. For the kimchi, place about a cup's worth on a cutting board and quickly give it a chop. Same thing here, it needs to be small enough to be mixed together into a filling, but don't go too small so that it still has some texture. Place a frying pan over medium-high heat and add the pork belly. Then season with kosher salt and freshly cracked black pepper. Stirring occasionally, cook until the pork is just starting to brown on all sides. Then add the chopped kimchi. You definitely want some fat in the mixture as it'll keep it juicy, but if there's too much fat, just push everything to one side and blot up the excess with some paper towel. Continue cooking the mix until most of the liquid is gone and the kimchi and pork belly have some nice color to them. Then transfer to a bowl to allow to cool. It's also important to take a second and enjoy just how good something this simple really is. This is even good in fried rice or served over some noodles. The last thing we need to do before shaping the buns is make a dip. Traditionally, steam buns would be served with a soy sauce and vinegar dip with chunks of raw onion and hot pepper in them, and it's quite delicious. But personally, I like a dip comprised of minced green onion, the white part only, minced garlic, gochugaru hot pepper flakes, roasted sesame seeds, mirin Japanese cooking wine, rice vinegar, soy sauce, and sesame oil. The flavor is still pretty close to the traditional, but just has a little extra. So, because these are steam buns, you're gonna need, well, a steamer. This is a pretty standard bamboo steamer that is easily available. If you can't find one, there are lots of different ways to steam things, and rather than list them all, I'd simply encourage you to check the internet to find your best option based on what you have. This next thing is optional, but will make your life much easier, and that's a set of circle cutters. Rather than shaping each ball of dough into a perfect circle, I prefer to just cut mine out. Now that the dough has doubled in size, we can start to roll it out. Generously dust your work surface with flour and flatten your dough into a rough circle. Using a rolling pin, stretch and flatten the dough. You can make it into a circle or a rectangle, doesn't really matter. You want it to be around 3 millimeters or about 1/8 of an inch thick. As for the size of the circles, it doesn't matter too much, but going larger will make it a lot easier to fill and crimp the steam buns. I'm using the largest cutter in this set, which has a diameter of 11 centimeters or 4¼ inches. Now, as I stated at the beginning, I am not an expert at this and have not mastered this technique, but essentially all you're doing is placing about 2 tablespoons of filling in the center. Then taking the side and pinching it over and pressing to seal. Then grabbing the next part of the side and pinching it over from the inside and pressing to seal. Repeat this until you're unable to fold the edge over anymore, and while placing your index finger in the center, twist the steam bun closed. Here it is again. Once all of the steam buns are done, you'll need something to place them on as to not stick. I'm using muffin liners just because they're the perfect shape and size for my steam buns. If you use them, make sure they're coated with silicone or give them a spray with cooking oil, otherwise they will stick horribly. I know this from experience. You can also just use small pieces of parchment paper. Loosely wrap the steam buns in plastic wrap and allow them to rest for 10 to 15 minutes. In the meantime, place a pot on high heat with about 4 inches of water in it and bring to a boil. Then transfer the buns to the steamer. Try not to overcrowd the steamer as the buns will expand. This is why using the bamboo steamer is handy because you can buy extra layers that will allow you to steam multiple buns at a time. Place the steamer on the pot of boiling water and allow them to steam for 10 to 12 minutes depending on the size of your buns. Buns. You might notice some spots where the kimchi color has leaked through. It's fine and won't affect anything. Allow the buns to cool for a few minutes before serving. Then spoon some of the dip into your fanciest dip bowl and serve the buns on your fanciest plate. And that's it! Kimchi and pork belly steam buns. They're pillowy soft, a little chewy, and that filling is just so damn good. So be brave and give them a try. I promise it'll be worth it. I recently started a coffee page, so if you like my content and are interested in supporting my channel, you can check out the link in the description. Liking and subscribing is always helpful though. Thanks for watching, and stay awesome.